the Trump administration's newly announced initiatives to tackle autism, including new health guidance regarding the use of Tylenol during pregnancy. Now, unfortunately, we were only able to scratch the surface because of the time. And this is an important issue. Autism rates have increased like 400% since the year 2000. And so I asked Dr. Robert Malone, who co-chairs the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. He is the founder of and president of the Malone Institute, which aims to bring back integrity to government, the biological sciences, and medicine, to join us again today. So, Dr. Malone, thanks so much for coming back. I appreciate you coming and helping us unpack this a bit more.
Tony, thank you, and thank you for that preceding essay on liberty. I really appreciate it. I was riveted by your words.
Well, thank you. It's not my words, it's the Lord's words. Comes out of his book. And you can never go wrong with those words. Let's pick up where we left off. We were talking about the suppression of any information and even discussion on the potential link between autism, Tylenol, vaccines. This is a debate that's been going on for a long, long time. You talked about the president having a vested interest in this. Is it not time that we look at all the data and let science lead us forward?
The truth is, it's way past time, Tony. And I'm fascinated that the company marketing Tylenol itself made statements, I believe it was in 2015, that they don't recommend the use of their product in pregnancy. This is another case, if you're familiar with the term or your audience is, the Overton window, the range of allowable discourse. And we have been somehow disallowed from asking fundamental questions about why we see this rise in autism. And it's not just autism, as you point out, it's autism spectrum disorder. It's a variety of other conditions that are diagnosed and often overtreated, like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And what's at the root of all these things? Well, there is a fairly clear link, if you look at the preponderance of evidence, that treatment with Tylenol can affect the development of key parts of the brain, the central nervous system of children, whether in utero or as young children. And that this leads to a number of these neurologic conditions that have become so rampant. And of course, there is the severe autism that when I was young, you rarely, if ever, saw, and now is reasonably common. And then there's this group of behaviors that are bundled as autism spectrum disorder that have a frequency in the state of California that's down near 1 in 10 or less. It's stunning what's going on.
Why the hesitancy to talk about this? Why it's like people who bring these things up, like the vaccines, any connection, the timing of vaccines, all this stuff. It's like they're marginalized and made out to be, even as the media was criticizing the president yesterday and his administration. Why the reluctancy to talk about this?
Tony, I don't know, and I can only speculate. It's really easy to blame everything on pharma and the corruption and management of media by pharma, but that doesn't explain the kind of willful blindness on the part of the public. It's as if we really don't want to know. There's some sort of a cultural prohibition about talking about the possibility that we're damaging our children. And even more, there's a prohibition on talking about the possibility that our children are being damaged because of the advice they're receiving from medical professionals. And this all wraps up into something we were just discussing in the MAHA Action Group a few moments ago, the arrogance of physicians and other medical practitioners that have become so rampant in American medical culture, this idea that they can't be challenged, that they are all-knowing. That's just false. And I think that's part of it. You know, Tony, if you unpack the Tylenol story, which it's amazing what the pushback is being in the media right now about this, given how well documented it is. Underneath it is the issue that pediatricians have been recommending that we treat any kind of fever in the child or the pregnant woman with this agent, with Tylenol. And it could well be that their advice has led to a significant burden of disease in children. And they've got to come to grips with that.
When you look at I would talk about Tylenol. I'm going to talk a little bit about the vaccines, because the childhood immunization, the vaccines have long been at the center of this discussion, or the discussion that didn't happen, that should have happened. There's no denying the evidence that autism has increased, as you call it, the wide spectrum. I mean, there's no denying that. There has to be something behind it, and if you're not willing to look at these things, you'll never find out what it is. What's your view on the childhood immunization programs that are currently being utilized in America?
So I find the argument that vaccines historically, for children in particular, have been licensed without adequate negative controls. So we really don't know what the spectrum of adverse events are, because we built a pyramid of logic that it's somehow unethical to not administer a vaccine to a child as a control group, so that we can assess whether or not those products are causing certain types of adverse events. We also have never done the investigations on the interactions of these products, essentially drug-drug interactions, in any other part of pharmacology and regulatory affairs. Drug-drug interactions are central to decisions about licensure and recommendations. But for some reason in the vaccines, there's a prohibition on asking those questions. For some reason, vaccines are treated as if they are something different, not really a drug, something that's sacrosanct, that is almost a religion in and of itself. And that has to stop. Vaccines are drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a vaccinologist. I spent most of my career developing vaccine technology and participating in vaccine clinical trials. But the truth is that these are just drugs, and they have adverse events. They have made huge impacts on certain infectious diseases. I wouldn't want to go into the jungles of Brazil without having taken a yellow fever vaccine, which, by the way, is a nasty piece of work. Likewise, I wouldn't want to work on the front lines of an Ebola outbreak without having taken the similarly reactogenic Ebola vaccine. But that doesn't mean that these don't have side effects. And this prohibition on examining drug-drug interactions, vaccine-vaccine interactions, timing of vaccine schedule, whether or not we are truly accounting for all the adverse events, and the denialism of those parents and children that have really been vaccine injured, I think is stunning. It needs to stop. It's damaging. All these claims that Bobby's the one damaging public health.
Right.
No, public health is damaging public health.
So let me ask you this, Dr. Malone. Do you see that changing post COVID, where we've seen now a lot of focus on the effects of that vaccine, some of those vaccines? Do you see that changing?
The willingness to begin to question these narratives that all of these products are safe and effective is changing.
Yeah.
There does seem to be a fundamental earthquake happening in public health right now. And you can sense that by the enormous amount of backlash that's occurring from the various self-appointed spokespersons for public health and vaccine industry. But it's happening. People have been lied to. We were lied to at the last ACIP meeting by both Pfizer and Moderna, as Dr. Marianne Damasi documented in her Substack essay yesterday. So
What did they lie about?
The biodistribution studies and what they did in those biodistribution studies. In the case of Moderna, for instance, they asserted that they had used the actual active drug product when they hadn't. And that's documented in the FDA literature, in the dossier. It's also documented that Pfizer edited the biodistribution data. This all relates, this term biodistribution, this relates to the lie that we were told that if we accept the product, it stays in our shoulder or the draining lymph nodes and it doesn't go to your body. That was intentionally hidden from us.
We just have a couple minutes left, Dr. Malone. So the news yesterday, the president making these statements about Tylenol, children, pregnant women, your recommendation to parents that have young children that are watching this program?
Oh, boy, you're going to put me right on the spot on that one. My recommendation is to be very cautious and to, unfortunately, you're going to have to do your own research for a little bit of while. We're trying to catch up at the ACIP with the literature, but I think that at this point, it's the pragmatic thing is to have an active discussion with your pediatrician, and you take responsibility for your child's health and making an informed decision, and don't allow anybody to bully you or shame you into accepting something that you don't feel comfortable with. That's the fundamentals of informed consent.
Yeah, and I think that we're rediscovering that post-COVID. Dr. Malone, I always appreciate you coming on the program and your insights. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony.